So in this lesson, we're going to create a way to measure the distance from this corner controller, lip controller, to somewhere on the face just under the nose. So that way, as this distance decreases, we can use that measurement to drive secondary deformations in the face. What we have to do in order to avoid a cyclical deformation is similar to the lip rigging. We need to create something that can lock onto the face and share all the skin cluster transformations. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the head and have just a single patch there with the same skin cluster information, and then lock a rivet onto that. So first we're going to create a distance dimension node or distance measure. Move to a side view here, and then select Create, Measure Tools, Distance Tool. Then click twice anywhere in the interface, in the window. So here we have two locators and the distance dimension node, which measures the distance in world space between those locators. I'll select these locators and size them down a little by changing their local scale attribute. Let's rename this distance dimension node. I'm going to call it Cave01L. Mouth dist. Okay, so this first locator we can simply parent underneath this joint. So I'll select the locator, select the lip corner joint, and hit P for parent. I can zero out the translate values of that locator so that it centers on its new parent. Okay, so now in order to attach the second distance locator to the face, we could do something like select a couple of edges, create a rivet on that face so it will follow along with the face, and then parent this locator beneath that. But if we add a secondary deformer underneath this mesh, which will deform based on the distance, then that distance can change based on the deformation that that deformer itself is adding to the face mesh. So we'll have a cyclical deformation where this locator, which measures the distance, is locked onto the face, but a deformer that's deforming the face, which affects this distance, will also be driven by this distance measure. So what we're going to do is select the face and duplicate it. Edit, duplicate. Let's unlock all this. Rename it quickly. L-Mouth Geo. I'm going to open the hypergraph and remove it from the display layer. So I just graphed the input-output connections of the new duplicated head mesh. Here's the Cave01 head display layer. I'm just going to break the connections to this new duplicated mesh. So that way we can hide the head geometry and still have our duplicated mesh visible. So I'm going to switch to a side view here and select faces. I'm going to pick one face. Let's say back here. That's what we're going to duplicate and just blow away everything else. So holding down Shift, drag, select over the whole model, which reverses that selection, so we have only that one face that's not selected. When I hit backspace or delete, we only have the one face. Now what I'm going to do is select the two edges of this face and then activate our Rivet script. So once again, once you have the script downloaded and in your scripts directory, you can either type in Rivet, or as I have here on my shelf, just click on the shelf button. So you can see we have a locator that's locked onto that single face polygon. I'm going to parent this second distance measure locator to the new rivet. Then zero out the rotation and translation of that locator. Okay, so there we have our distance measure. Okay, so now we're going to attach that single face polygon onto the face by selecting JNTs, going to deselect all the lip joints here. Shift select our patch on the side of the face and then smooth skin it. Skin, bind skin, smooth bind, leaving it at the values I've been, the settings I've been using throughout the tutorials, and hit bind. Okay, so if I look at the head movement, you can see we're getting some nose movement. Otherwise, it's following along okay. What I'm going to do is copy and paste the smooth skin cluster weighting from the head mesh to this mouth patch. So I selected the head mesh first, the source of the weighting, the single face patch second, and then select skin, edit smooth skin, copy skin weights. Okay, that patch is following along fine. So now we have a driver that we can use to drive other deformers based on the distance from this corner lip to that point on the face. And since we used a secondary object which shares the skin cluster weighting, we can be assured to not put ourselves in a deformation cycle. So now that we have this, in the next lessons we're going to use it to hook up a secondary deformer that will be tied to the lip movement.